So you can wear this one when you're talking. Beauty now. I used to hand out. Yeah.
Is this working? I mean, I don't know.
Otherwise, there's a hand. We need it. Yeah, thank you. So, oh, so that you can need to, well, you don't have to do it right away. So I would join the Zoom call. Yeah, and then share. And you will be talking together. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. So there is a hand help and there's on the mutual. We'll figure it out. Yeah, you're like, we just graduated undergrad. Do you know how to get the meeting number? I feel like you thought he was my super, I never worked. Whereas Daniel actually did. Actually, he said. It's so good.
It's not done. It's not done the numbers.
Hey, very nice to see you. I mean, that's. Hi. Maybe I'm just gonna leave for now. So I don't want to keep my door. Yeah, yes, some people say they would join them. Okay, do they have the link? I sent them. Okay. All right, great. Yes, we are. Okay. Should check what's here. Let's just make sure. It's recording, yeah. Okay, let's start it. Let's get started. Do you hear me in this? Yes, okay. It's no. Okay, great. Welcome to this very first seminar in our new quantum industry seminar series. We have several guests and speakers today. From Mitacs, we have Modupe, Olufemi, and Laura Yu sitting over there. They will start in a moment. Then I will say a few words about a program, an umbrella program that we have that can facilitate student internships in industry. And then Praveen, Jayakumar, and Serene Shum will tell us about experiences from recent internships at Xanadu. This is a good opportunity, maybe if you're not aware, that we have a website which is quite rich with information. We have a LinkedIn page, which is close to a year old now with many followers actually. And we have just started a LinkedIn group for members and alumni of CQIQC. So the LinkedIn group is moderated. You can find it on LinkedIn if you search, and then you request to join, and we will let you in. All right, very good. Let's hand over to Mitacs.
Yes, it is. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the kind introduction, Anna. I'm here from Mitacs to talk about opportunities to build research capacity in the quantum sector. through our Mitacs programs. And so I'm going to introduce everyone to Mitacs because not everybody is familiar with our organization and the things that we do. Provide a high-level summary of each of our different programs and opportunities that may be beneficial for the different students. And provide some, again, high-level summaries of different types of projects that you could do within our internship programs. So what is Mitacs? So we are a pan-Canadian not-for-profit organization that does receive support from our federal and provincial funding partners to facilitate research and innovation collaborations between academia and industry. And the hope is that will allow the talent embedded in our post-secondary institutions to work with industry partners and even other non-academic entities to solve key societal challenges through dynamic projects. So as I said before, the way that we facilitate these connections between the post-secondary institutions and partner organizations such as for-profit enterprise, not-for-profits, and other entities is through internships. And what sets us apart from some of these other work placement programs is that the key is that these things are project-driven. So there has to be a defined scope that will help a company or a research group advance their objectives when it comes to maybe something in quantum, since that's something that you guys are all very interested in. So Mitacs has a lot of key relationships. As I mentioned, we partner with various enterprises. We have over 11,000 connections throughout Canada. We also support entrepreneurs, whether they are students and professors trying to spin out of university labs, or just outside entrepreneurs looking for talent to build their companies. Obviously, we support research institutions like U of T, and we are connected with 191 different colleges and universities throughout Canada. And we have connections to our federal and provincial governments and sources of capital for companies and startups looking for funding. So I'm just going to provide a high-level summary of the types of projects that we do. So we support projects throughout the innovation spectrum. So if you think about developing a new technology, product, or service in terms of an R&D spectrum, we support early stage research and development, as well as later stage pilots and commercialization. So the research stream will be covered by our Accelerate and Elevate programs. Our later stage innovation and development projects will be covered by our business strategy internship. And I can't talk about Mitacs without the facilitation between different universities across the world. So we actually have our Global Link program, which facilitates bidirectional exchange from Canada to some other institution abroad. And so I actually want to start with the Global Link program because I think that could be an introduction to connecting with quantum researchers in other parts of the world so that you can take some insights back to U of T when you're done with your exchange. And so our main mechanism for this is the Global Link Research Award. And what this does is that it facilitates that bidirectional exchange between academic institutions. So we support students at all levels, whether they're undergraduates, preferably in their late stage of degree, master's, PhD students, obviously, as well as postdocs to go on these 12 to 48 week research projects. So you can travel from Canada or within Canada, and even on the same project, you can actually facilitate bidirectional travel if there is an existing collaboration with a researcher abroad. And so we actually have a special offering for quantum since it's a priority sector that's of interest to the government. So typically our research award will cover $6,000 worth of travel and living expenses, maybe some small research expenses to facilitate a research project from 12 to 24 weeks. So quantum can actually do a second project unit, which will allow you to do up to 1 year of research. And if you have a partnership, you can actually get an additional $3,000 worth of funding. So what this looks like, if you do the shorter project term, you actually get $9,000 to support your research trip abroad or to bring a student into Canada to facilitate a research collaboration. But if it's a longer project, it's a $15,000 award. So the partners that we have with other countries dedicated to quantum specifically, we have one in Brazil, we have a couple in France and Germany, and one in Taiwan. So each international partner does have its own adjudication process and requirements before you can qualify for additional support through that stream. So just connect with a Mitacs advisor like myself, since I support GRA at the U of T campus, or if you know other researchers in your network at other Canadian universities, if this is of interest to them, have them connect with their local Mitacs advisor.
But in general, if you have an potential collaborator anywhere in the world?
Yes, you can. So there's a general stream called the allocations stream. So every Canadian university outside of these existing partnerships will have a set number of GRA applications they can support. It would just require a copay typically. However, for quantum, we actually waive the copay. So you can actually apply through some separate stream and support a collaboration even without a partnership. It's just you don't get the extra funding if you decide to do that. So it would be $6,000 for the shorter project. It would be $12,000 for the larger project. So another thing that's nice about the Global Link program is sometimes there are challenges with the visa. Other times there are challenges related to needing to do preparation before you embark on the trip. So we actually allow for up to 25% of the project itself to be completed at the institution, the home institution. So maybe at the beginning or the end, there's something that needs to be done to complete the project that requires the student to be at their home university. We do allow for this to happen. You can also have 5 interns on one application if there's a large collaboration that does involve multiple interns. And you can even have them go to the partner site or come into Canada at different times, just depending on the needs of the project. So we do have a thematic call with some of the other partners that we do have. So these applications are open until November 20th. The projects must have tangential relationship to some of these other areas, whether it's emerging technologies, which I think quantum would fit really well in, sustainability initiatives, life sciences, and anything that has to do with social innovation. Next, I'll talk about more of our domestic stream programs, which involve these academic to industry partnerships. So the Global Link is pure academic, pure research. This one is more applied research projects. So the way that this works is that the trainee is in theory supposed to spend their time roughly equally between the partner organization and the academic institution in hopes that they can leverage the resources found at institutions like U of T and whatever quantum startup or company they're working with that they wouldn't be able to access if they were trying to undertake this project at either institution alone. So what is an eligible partner to participate in a Mitacs project? So this can be for-profit corporations, this can be municipalities, hospitals, and not-for-profit organizations that may be interested in quantum-related technologies for some particular application that is of interest to their stakeholders. So we have over 9,000 SMEs that we do work with across Canada. The majority of these companies are small, medium enterprise rather than large. And once you include not-for-profits, we have a plethora of collaborators that you could work with. So the nice thing about these projects is that you can start small. So the smallest project term is 4 to 6 months. You'll have one partner company, one intern carrying out this short-term project, and you can have an award of up to $15,000 to support this. However, these projects are also scalable multiple ways. So within a 4 to 6 month term, you can have multiple interns join the same project, or you can have individual interns do multi-years on a project, or you can have some combination of both things. This can allow companies to set up talent pipelines and for graduates and trainees to work on exciting and very dynamic collaborative research projects. So the first of these is the Accelerate program, which is our flagship program. It's primarily more of a research-based project. So this is for those earlier technological readiness levels and early stage R&D, where there's still some ironing out of a proof of concept or the attempt to develop a prototype or software or algorithm, depending on what the applications are. So again, you can take trainees from all levels, undergrads of any level up to postdoctoral fellows, just depending on the needs of the project. It addresses a question that is both relevant to a partner organization, but will also generate something of benefit to the academic community. So these projects are going to be half funded by Mitacs and half funded by the partner organizations. So for professors, there's no requirement to take funds from your other grants to support these projects. So the nice thing about Mitacs projects is that once you submit an application, you can submit one at any time unless there's a special call that we are putting out. So once you have all the components you need, the company, the interns in question, the professor who's willing to work on the scope of the project, there's nothing that stops you from submitting an application at any time of year, provided that funds are available. Decisions are communicated within 12 weeks, just depending on the size of the project. Bigger projects obviously take longer to review. If you're doing an Accelerate project that is either 1 year long or has 3 interns working on a 4 to 6 month basis, these applications actually get reviewed a lot faster, and there's an expedited application for this. And the success rate is pretty high, in part because Mitacs has many advisors situated in academic institutions or in collaboration with academic institutions to help you review your proposals so that you reduce the chances of a revision request. And typically there is a revision request process if there are things in your projects that need to be clarified. Now, of the Accelerate stream, we actually have an entrepreneurial bent where if there is a student who's working in a research group who wants to pay themselves to work on developing some aspect of their business, it's the same model as the Accelerate that I described, except what happens is that the student is now the company. So there's this inherent conflict of interest that happens. So what happens is that we need the trainee to be backed by an academic incubator or a regional incubator with the approval of U of T to support the business in terms of their operations capacity, since they will be spending a lot of time working on the research. In this case, the professor, depending on whether they're involved with the company or not, or is just another entity there helping the students have support in developing their projects, can also be involved. However, if the professor is going to be a part of the company, there will need to be an independent administrator who's able to disperse the grant, just so that the students are able to work on the project without fear of undue pressure that would jeopardize the operation. Okay. Next, we have our business strategy internship, and I typically refer to it as just BSI because sometimes people hear business and they think this doesn't apply to me. However, the business strategy internship is more for those later stage R&D type projects where maybe there's a prototype already that needs to be tested so that one can understand if they need to go back to the drawing board and revisit an earlier stage of research and development, or if to see if their solution is ready to be commercialized. And so the difference between the BSI projects and the Accelerate projects is that BSI projects are innovation driven. So this is meant to help an external company develop a process or optimize a service for their clients. And the funding models are the same. The types of interns that could be a part of this are the same. However, unlike the Accelerate, this is addressing a business challenge. So there's nothing of academic benefit really. It's more generating something of proprietary benefit for some kind of enterprise. So we support projects through all disciplines and whatnot. And again, the funding model is very similar to Accelerate. So like Accelerate, you can submit an application at any time of year once all the components are in place. What was I going to say? So there's that. Because this is a business strategy internship, it's more of writing an application for a use case or a business case as to why you need to work on a particular project with specific deliverables. Therefore, the application is a lot simpler. So there are decisions communicated on the outcome of the project, usually within 6 weeks, best case scenario within 4. But again, it also depends on project size and scope. Like Accelerate, if there needs to be revision requests or clarifications, there is a process for this as well. Finally, we have the Elevate program, which is a postdoctoral fellow exclusive stream. This requires a minimum 1 year commitment from a company who allows a postdoc to work on something of interest to both the company and the academic partner. There's also a professional development curriculum that goes hand in hand because the purpose of this program is to train postdoctoral fellows who could either go into research management on the industry side or the academic side, depending on what their preferences are. It's nice because they get to address really complex challenges. And the award is a total $60,000 per year funding commitment. So the partner puts in $30,000. Mitacs will match this. And most of the funds, with the exception of $5,000, are guaranteed stipend for the postdocs. So if there are any postdocs in the room, I know that U of T has increased their minimum stipend for funding the postdocs. So typically we recommend that postdocs apply through the Elevate stream because it meets those minimum funding requirements. And there's those additional top-ups that will allow for up to $60,000 in compensation. So I just wanted to provide a high-level summary of particularly the business strategy internships and GRA projects that could be undertaken. There's some exciting Accelerate projects that are being done throughout different faculties within U of T and even in Canada. Some of you may have heard of them. Like, for example, I know at U of T, someone is working on a collaboration with Xanadu and Hydro-Quebec on cybersecurity applications of quantum in this big NSERC Mitacs joint application. So that's one way that you could build out a larger, more complex project with multiple partners and bring in additional funding. But to keep it simple, we'll start with GRA. So we had a Canadian student go to UCLA to examine quantum applications for biology. We've had a student from Germany come into Canada to use quantum for decryption applications. And we've had an application where 5 students went between a Canadian university and the University of Singapore to work on an important algorithm, again, with quantum applications. So this is sort of the way that you can design projects where you send a student abroad, have a student come in, or work on a large, complex bidirectional project. So for the business strategy internship, we will need some expertise to start taking on what are called hybrid roles, where they're taking their technical expertise and also developing some of the business and marketing acumen needed to really increase adoption and help companies really scale. So these are the types of things you can do with a business strategy internship so that you can see it's not just market research, right? So you can actually really enhance your prototype by testing it out to see if it's useful or feasible, because sometimes you won't know until you actually apply it. Again, optimizing existing processes and workflows, developing strategies to engage with key stakeholders is another way. You can modernize the practices of an existing organization, especially if you're working with a business who's meant to support other businesses in their applications. And obviously there is a marketing research component that could be applied for business strategy internships. So these are the types of things that you could apply within the quantum sector for those of you who are not sure if you want to stay in academia or industry. I'd like to thank our federal and provincial funding partners and everyone for listening. Here's my contact information if you have any questions, especially about GRA.
Any questions?
How long does GRA take to be approved?
So it typically takes, I would say, as short as 12 weeks up to 16 weeks, but we are introducing something where we'll allow quantum applications to be expedited. So it's more of a 6 to 7 week approval. Yes.
As an undergraduate student, how would I go about joining a GRA project?
So yeah, so what I typically recommend is talk to a professor that you're interested in doing. I don't know if you're going to do, say, a thesis project at the end of your research. So talk with your advisor to see if they have an ongoing international collaboration or if they're open to it. And what I recommend doing is if you want to maximize your funding, for example, finding faculty at those partners that we have in Brazil or France or Germany and seeing if there's faculty that have alignment, maybe sending a cold email or two to see if there's a match. Those are the ways that I would recommend going about finding that collaboration.
I believe you're also advertising some projects.
Yeah, so those are more for our industry related domestic projects. So we have an open project portal where companies are always reaching out to Mitacs because they need talent. And we have an open project portal where you can find projects that are in your sector or adjacent to your sector of interest. If you submit if you fill out the form and provide your CV, what happens is that those resumes get sent to the Mitacs advisors working with those accounts. And if there's a match, they'll facilitate an interview and see if they want you to join the project. But professors often have their own existing collaborations. And if you have a professor who happens to have one and is interested in developing a project, that's another way that you can also end up joining a Mitacs project. So what I described and what Anna was talking about is specific for Accelerate, BSI, or Elevate, just because those are projects that we have those industry-specific collaborations with.
Do we have more questions? Oh.
Oh, okay.
I know this is quantum focused, but I should like quantum is kind of like this huge area, so investing more time. Are there other areas? Sorry.
Yeah, so we support literally everything. So another big sector is obviously everything going on with computing and AI outside of quantum. We have a lot going on in the life sciences. There are actually some interesting projects in the humanities, especially those that have social innovation implications that solve key societal problems. So we support a wide range of projects, definitely.
In terms of the acceptance rate, so is most of the projects kind of accepted if you apply?
Most projects are accepted if you apply, again, for a couple of reasons. We do a lot of quality control on the applications, and sometimes if people don't want to respond to a revision request, those eventually do get terminated if you don't respond within a certain amount of time. I would say the Elevate stream is a little more competitive just because it is a postdoctoral fellowship. It is more limited and there's a lot more rigor that's expected. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have to be a Canadian citizen or from residence with like
Okay, so for the most part, no. With Mitacs, as long as you have a relationship or an affiliation with a Canadian institution, you can apply for our programs. Now, for some of the GRA partnerships that we do have, there are stipulations that you need to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. Sometimes they only take citizens and not permanent residents. So it really depends, but for the most part, we're pretty flexible on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Will you stay in case there might be more questions? So let's continue. I will say just a few words about CQIQC's own Accelerate umbrella program, what that is, and how you can find out more and possibly use it. And then we'll hand over to the students. Anyway, so we have since the beginning of this year a 2-year-long Mitacs Accelerate umbrella program, and what that is, and its title is or its focus is quantum computing. Topics include the ones you see over here listed, but I think that we're always ready to discuss with Mitacs if there is a project that doesn't exactly fit into these definitions or these subtopics. So the program has 90 pre-approved Mitacs internship units, and an internship unit is around a 4-month-long internship. So it defines the length. If you have a longer than 8 months, you would need 2 internship units to execute that. It's intended primarily for graduate students and postdocs, and it's primarily for U of T students, but we are always ready to discuss with someone from outside of U of T, another Canadian institution, if there is a good fit with the project. And pre-approved here doesn't mean that we can just hand them out. They are ready to go and the remaining review and approval process from Mitacs is quicker. So you still need a student, of course, you need an industry partner that has an interesting project and a good fit between the company, the project, and the student, and then you need an academic supervisor. So once you have all that in place, you can fill in an application, which is called part 2 of the umbrella, and then it gets a quicker review by Mitacs. And we've had a few of those. Our partners so far, even though we haven't done projects with all of them, include Xanadu, BAIT, Canada, IonQ, Canada, Pascal, OTI Lumionics, Zapata AI, and I believe Multiverse Computing is also in the loop. And there is, on our website, there is a specific program page where you can have a look at the projects that we have executed or are in progress, and some that are open for applications. Now, so far we have underutilized this program a little bit, so there's plenty more to do, and we will continue to work with the companies to source research projects to this program. So the idea is that it's really industry driven. The project should come, I mean, this is the first idea, that the company has a research need and they submit a project and we will advertise it. So it might also be advertised by Mitacs directly, or the company might look for student elsewhere, but we're always ready to post and promote and advertise projects from industry to this program. And if you are interested in learning more or interested in a specific project, you can contact me. I'm Anna, and that's my email. I also wanted to mention beforehand, moving on to the next, is that we actually had one case where a student pitched a project. So a student was interested in a couple of companies and a specific area in quantum and came to me, and I facilitated a couple of meetings to kind of, and the student had then prepared. So in the meeting described what they were interested in, their background, their expertise in quantum. And while that has not materialized yet, I would encourage you to think about that. Because that's also a very good way, I think, to actually approach a company. They might not be interested, but if they are, I think they will find that it's very kind of interesting that a student shows up and has prepared something and has that level of interest that they are ready to approach. Interest and courage, right? That's I encourage you to have a look at that or consider that as well. Okay, do we have any questions about? Yes, sorry.
These topics came from industry, or?
Yes.
So the pre-approved topics came from industry?
Yeah, they are detailed in the umbrella program. We detail them much more than that in the application for the umbrella program. They actually came from Xanadu, but the other partners that we were kind of reviewing this with or got help from, they were on board. So.
It's supposed to be extensively, so that they get these projects in quantum.
I was just curious about chip design and architecture and computer topics, but if they actually exist, that somebody in Canada that's actually interested in that.
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Curious, if I like to
So there's no deadline for the program, apart from that it actually expires in early 2026. But the company typically or sometimes sets a deadline. So for instance, we have for Xanadu, the Xanadu Summer Residency Program. That's now open for applications, and I believe that there is a deadline, don't know when. But for a specific, it depends, right? Xanadu residency program is one example where you have to apply by a certain date. Sure. Yes.
Add to that, so the deadline, if you're looking to start a summer, thank you. If you're looking to start a summer internship, let's say May 1st, right? Then you want to make sure that you have an industry partner, the application all approved before that, so that you can be paid starting May 1st, right? So that's where you might want to think about a deadline. And so to catch that, you might want to start looking for, if you don't already have an industry partner, that's where you might want to start looking in around January, February timeframe, and have everything all submitted, approved early April to mid-April at the latest, because then that allows like 2 weeks buffer to get funds transferred, etc., all set up so that you're ready to go come May 1st. Yeah, but to Anna's point, there are deadlines, like Xanadu has a deadline for their residency program, and the topics that Anna showed on the screen, they're a broad topic, right? It's not, so in quantum computing, for example, it's quite broad. It might have multiple applications in different application or industry sector. So that alone, you can propose specific projects under that theme already. And then there's other topics that were listed on Anna's slide. Yeah. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you for clarifying that. Let's move on. Serene and Praveen. Oh, maybe I need to. Okay.
Okay, hello, is this what, okay, is it working?
Yeah, if
And I just hold it.
Green, you need to, no, you need to.
Is this working?
Okay, good to go.
I'm not sure what's supposed to be green, but
Just speak.
yeah, okay. Okay, so hello, my name is Serene,
I'm Praveen.
and we're gonna be talking about our experience in the Xanadu residency program this summer. So this was May to August of this year. So I guess first an introduction to us. So I'm a fifth year PhD. I just started my fifth year, and I'm supervised by Nathan Wiebe. And I am in physics, although technically Nathan is in computer science, but I am a physics PhD student. And my research area is in quantum simulation algorithms.
I'm Praveen. I'm a third year PhD student in the chemistry department in the Center for Quantum Computing, Chemical Physics part of the chemistry department. And my research area so far has been quantum algorithms and quantum error mitigation. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll talk about our experiences individually, even though we were both at Xanadu, our experiences weren't necessarily the same. So first about the application process. So I applied to the Xanadu residency program in November of 2023. So I didn't apply for Mitacs directly. I was applying for this residency program, which is basically an internship program, but I guess it's more formal. Xanadu also has interns where you can just apply for an internship, but the residency program is there's like a set like start and end date. There's like a 1 week boot camp at the beginning. So it's sort of like a more like formal program for an internship. And that month I got an email saying that I'd be doing an interview with a member of the algorithms team. It said in the email, like, this is a technical interview. So I thought that would be like the technical interview, but it turns out after there was another more technical interview. So the first meeting, we just sort of discussed like my work, and I feel like I was being tested a little bit. Like I was asked like some technical questions, but it wasn't super technical. It was just more like getting to know the company. And then in December, I had the real technical interview. And for this one, I had to prepare a presentation on my research. I was given the option of either talking about my research or about a paper I had read recently. And I feel like presenting my own work was a much better option because, I mean, I know it better than I would know a paper that I've read. And then afterwards, there was an interrogation from the 3 members of the team. And then after that, within that month, I got an email saying I was accepted. And it was only after I was accepted where the application for the Mitacs funding came up. Because I am at a Canadian university, it was a great way to get funding. So I worked on the application for that in around March of 2024. Yeah, so now on to Praveen's experience with the application.
So actually in October last year, I applied for the algorithms team and I got rejected. So I reapplied to the architecture team because I'm also interested in error correction, and I got accepted. I went to the next stage. Then in December 2023, I had a 45 to 1 hour minute technical interview from basic to like advanced error correction theory and ideas, and also in general to know the team and to know myself, to know the project and what needs to be a researcher. So I guess that was the only interview I had. And after that, I got accepted around January. And in February, we had a short meeting about the project itself, what I'll be doing, a little more technical. And that's when I applied to the Mitacs program, and they also helped me with my proposal. Another reason I applied for the Mitacs program, and I think it'll be helpful for people to know, is I'm a international person over here in a study permit, and I could not work more than 20 hours. So Mitacs is a great way to get around that and actually do a project if you want to do in the summer. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, so now I'll be talking about my experience with working at Xanadu. So I was supervised by Juan Miguel at Xanadu, although I didn't really directly work with him all that much. He's the head of the algorithms team, and I was mostly collaborating with other members of the team. And the research project that I was working on was developing an algorithm for simulation of vibrational spectroscopy. And in a lot of ways, it's similar to my PhD research, which is also in developing quantum simulation algorithms. So there was a lot of reading papers, like working out math, the typical research experience. But I will say I did a lot more coding at Xanadu than I did with my PhD, although this just might be the fact that I don't do much coding in my regular PhD work. I'm sure a lot of other people code a lot in their PhD work. So for them, I guess it would not be all too different. Yeah, and I think the biggest difference was that this project was more focused on near-term practical application, unlike my PhD research, which assumes, you have very large fault-tolerant quantum computers, and we only care about asymptotic scaling. For this one, we actually cared about like qubit counts, gate counts, stuff like that. So it was interesting to do a project where we actually care about applications. So yeah, and the work atmosphere was really nice. It was really open and collaborative. I was working with other members of the algorithms team, and just the physical office space was also like open concept. We could just walk around and talk to other people. So yeah, it was a great work experience. And I will say that for me personally, I think Praveen has a different experience with this, but the work hours were more rigid compared to a PhD because this was a company. So we were sort of expected to come in like 9 a.m. and then I think people stay until 6 a.m. I sort of left at 5 p.m. I don't know whether I was like leaving early or something, and 6 p.m. Not overnight. They weren't working as that hard. But it might have just been a thing with my team. There are also 2 work from home days. So we didn't necessarily have to come into the office every day. But like as someone who's PhD supervisor does not care at all about like working hours or like coming in regularly to the office, it was a bit different for me personally. Yeah, and the office was really nice to work in. I guess it's the tech company experience where you've got like a ping pong table, a pool table, foosball, there's like free snacks and drinks, and there's a coffee machine, which as someone in physics, like anyone here in physics will know that we don't have access to the coffee machine at all times. It's only open for 1 hour a day. So this was a very nice change, the fact that we had constant access to a coffee machine. And yeah, there are also monthly social activities with the other residents, which was really nice. And I was able to make a lot of connections with people while I was there. Yeah, I guess that's my last point. The connections with the people I was working with, and also the other residents. And Juan Miguel did say if I do want to apply to Xanadu for a full-time job after I graduate, I have a good chance. So I feel like this was a really effective career opportunity for me, because now I have that option open. I have the connection if I ever want to work at Xanadu in the future. So yeah, now we will go on to Praveen's. Yeah, you guys, you can click your.
When I was at Xanadu, I was supervised by two folks, Dr. Priya and Dr. Michael. And so I worked primarily on improving on the architecture and on improving their GKP decoders. And it was mostly theory, but I had to simulate a little to test my ideas. And I had to learn everything from scratch because it's not what my PhD research is from. This was very different from my PhD because this focused more on current fault-tolerant computers, which they have, and not abstract algorithms. I found the work environment very open and very collaborative. I can ask nearly infinite questions, always bother people. So that was helpful. The free food helped a lot. It kept me through nights. So contrasting to Serene's experience, I had no fixed work schedule. My supervisors were quite free with it. And I worked in the morning, evenings, sometimes in the weekend, sometimes in the night. So whenever I felt like working. And all that was expected was to make some progress and to solve the problem which was given to me. So for me, in the beginning of the summer, my supervisors had laid down 3 problems for me to solve. And I managed to solve 2 of them with a potential solution for the other one. But we ran out of time. So that's all was expected of me. And it was quite productive in the sense they were quite happy that it managed to solve some of the problems. And I had a good experience. And like Serene said, I might have a good chance getting a job afterwards. We done?
I think that's all we have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's just open to questions. And also we have some photos of our fun activities at Xanadu. We went camping. We went to a Blue Jays game. This was all paid for. The camping was not paid for by Xanadu, but like the Blue Jays game and the Niagara Falls trip and the Wonderland trip were paid for by Xanadu. Like once a month, we just had a social event. There's the very strong ping pong culture there. This was like the finals of the company-wide ping pong tournament. Juan Miguel won. He's got a trophy, a ping pong trophy on his desk.
That's maybe a question for me, so because a question to you, because you are still halfway your PhD. So I mean, I'm curious, how do you see it? Yeah, coming together with your PhD thesis, is it you see it as a separate project? Are you shifting then your focus? What?
Personally, I don't see my PhD research focus shifting, but it did help me a lot to get some clarity, to see the road ahead after my PhD and to give me a bit of clarity of how do I do my PhD and how do I proceed from this point. So I don't see myself changing, but I do see myself collaborating more and taking up more different projects. So yeah, I hope that answers.
Question for you, actually. You mentioned that the work you did at Xanadu was different from your PhD research. How did you navigate the application and the interview process when your work was different from, I guess, your expertise? And I guess, Serene mentioned there was a technical interview. So did you have to study for these kinds of questions?
So the people who interviewed me were my supervisors at Zandu, and they knew that it was different from my PhD field. But I did have some prior experience in the field I was applying to, so I was not a complete newbie. With that said, they did keep the interview questions and what they expected of me to be basic quantum computing, quantum error correction. So some level of primary knowledge is required, but they don't expect you to know. So I worked on GKP decoders, and I knew nothing about GKP decoders, but I knew in general about decoders. So does it make sense? Yeah.
I just wanted to ask if, so while you were doing this internship or residency, did you have other projects that you had like on the side during your PhD? And if so, like, were they just put on hold? Or I guess it's for
Yeah, I
both,
guess
yeah.
I'll answer first because I have the mic currently. Yeah, I just entirely put my PhD research on hold. I had a project that I was working on, and then I think like the first week of the Xanadu internship, I submitted to archive and then never looked at it again until like the end of the residency. And then I looked back like 4 months later, and the paper was full of typos and mistakes. But yeah, I didn't look at my PhD research at all during that time.
I think the same answer as what Serene said. I had a project going on before my summer, but I tried to spend some time in the beginning, but they kept us busy at Xanadu, and even the weekends were filled with all these activities. So I couldn't get much done apart from this.
I will say it is different for different people. I know some of the other residents were like wrapping up their master's thesis or whatever during the residency. So it is possible, but I guess for us personally, we didn't do it.
So I guess a follow-on question to his question is, did you have to convince your academic supervisor to allow you to put the project on pause, or they were supportive that, yes, go ahead and do this because it's good for your future career path?
Yeah, personally, my supervisor was totally fine with it.
I wouldn't say I had to convince, but I had to state that I had this project going on. But I'd like to do this because it's a good experience for my career and in general for my research, to build my research career. So I had to tell my supervisor that I want to do this. Let's put our current project on pause.
That's great. If I might add a comment to what you said, Praveen, especially you were an international student, about your visa doesn't allow you to work more than 20 hours per week. I'm not an immigration consultant or anything by that nature, but from my knowledge is you are able to do more than 20 hours because the project is directly related to your study, your research study, although it's like not your actual PhD, but it's research is relevant to your knowledge and expertise, and that's why you're able. And that's kind of what the Mitacs internship, for those who are international students, that's what the Mitacs program would enable you. And of course, because Mitacs is funded by the federal government and provincial government, the intent of some of these of our programs is really to be able to attract people like Praveen, Serene, to continue to stay in Canada, help companies like Xanadu and others continue to scale and grow, and be able to retain that talent and IP that you have all contributed to remain in Canada for the benefit of Canadians. So glad that you both had a great experience so far, and hope that you guys will continue to, that opportunity to work with Xanadu, but if not, then you now have that experience to work for others.
I have a question for both of you. So how was the Mitacs Part 2 application for you both? And would you consider doing another Mitacs funded internship again?
I will say the application was a little bit hard because I didn't fully know what the project would be on. So I had to be specific enough that I could, fill out an application, but also a little bit vague because I didn't know the full details yet. So I think that did take some time. But I had feedback from from Juan Miguel at Xanadu on this, and there are other people at Xanadu that sort of helped me out on it. So I think it went pretty well, and yeah, I'd be open to doing another Mitacs internship in the future.
For me personally, my application was made by the company because it had a lot of confidential information, which they didn't feel comfortable sharing with me before I enter. So they wrote most of it, and I had a brief conversation about what it is, what's on the application. And once they wrote, I helped them review, and basically they did most of it. But do I see myself applying again? Yeah, maybe towards the end of my PhD, not in the middle again. And maybe if I have other postdoctoral requirements, I might do that. Yeah.
And
Also, about the confidentiality thing, are the Mitacs application project proposals confidential or okay? Okay, interesting.
I'll just add that both of your internships were done via the CQIQC umbrella program. So it was a reasonably smooth experience, even though it was one of the firsts we did.
So this is more of a question about like kind of the format of your program in general. So you guys had mentioned that like going into the residency program, you were kind of given like a task or a goal to accomplish. So is that just you working on that, or are you working with the residency team or like the algorithms team, for example? Like who are you working with on those specific things?
Yeah, so I was working with a few other people on the algorithms team on this one specific project. I didn't work with any of the other residents because I was the only resident on the algorithms team. The other residents had their own project with their teams.
Yeah, whatever Serene said, I was given a bunch of problems, and I was left alone to do that problem. Other people had different problems to tackle. So this was the approach Xanadu had. Maybe different companies will have different problems.
How did the experience of the residency program change to your your opinion about like future career?
I think for me personally, I am now strongly considering maybe working at Xanadu when I graduate. So yeah, I think it's had a pretty positive impact.
As someone who's never worked in an office, this was new to me, and I really like the rigorous and in general, I like the work environment and yeah, setting goals and the way work is done in a more rigorous fashion. So that helped me personally to become a better researcher and better worker. In the future, as I said, the door is open to me right now, and I did develop skills in a field which is totally tangential to my PhD research. So I can those doors are open to me now. So yeah.
I think we're a little bit over time, but maybe we're running out of questions as well. Thank you so much. It was very interesting.